Yo, we just people from the north side. Once and Timmy's at the shore fine. Winter ready on the four ties. Heavy traffic during 4-5. Gotta hustle on your own time. Color people every port side. We just people from the north side.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your host, your boy George Mackay, back again for another classic interview as I approach the epic 400 mark. That's right, 400 episodes, 300 and something conversations. And this is an ever evolving, ever changing, ever growing conversation as I welcome back one of my favorite guests, one of my favorite people in pro wrestling, even though he tries to pretend like there's not a friendship there. There is the one and only Gabriel Fuerza.
Hello, it's me again for the fourth or fifth time.
No, I think it's like six or seven, to be honest with you.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Yeah, but we've talked so much about your ever evolving career. The last time we were on the show was in the summertime where we talked very much about your Friends of Fuerza put on for Palestine the Kinder Foundation there, which was absolutely fantastic. Raised a lot of money, close to I believe $7,000 or $8,000, right?
Yeah, we literally tripled what I was expecting to make. Mostly just based off of like donations, like people who couldn't even make it to the show, people who just wanted to help out.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was a great show, great cause, some banger matches as there always are. You had a killer match with Stu Grayson. I mean, you guys, the whole Ontario indie scene came together in such a powerful way. And I know we talked about it kind of in depth in our Friends of Fuerza conversation, where we talked about all the matches that were planned together, all the work that was put in, all the people that wanted to help, all the money that was raised. But when you look back, and I never spoke to you about it that night because you were so crazy busy, when you look back and you see that you tripled the goal that you set for yourself, I mean, how amazing is it to see how wonderful this, IWC really is?
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I already know how great it is. I'm not one of those people who gets bogged down with the whole like negativity of the scene or whatever. Um, but it was a good little reminder just to know that you're not screaming into the void, you know?
I like that, screaming into the void. But you know what? You're right. Negativity does follow this scene so much. Um, and as much as there are negatives, there are huge positives. And you and the year that you've had has been quite epically positive. From the Friends of Fairs show to the banger matches with Mustafa Ali, Shelton Benjamin. I always like to kind of peruse Cage Match and all those websites that talk about how highly regarded some of these indie stars are. And it's where a lot of people can get a chance to really look at an indie star, especially if they've only seen them for the first time or only seen them on the internet. And they, oh, I got to search up more on this guy, see what I can find. And there's matches like that. And some of the comments, especially on you, are quite nice. I was actually looking at this before, wondering how I was going to work it in, but that's how easy these conversations are. They flow so naturally. But one of my favorite comments, why are you giving me that face? Don't give me that face. Don't give me
I'm
that.
just that's my face, man.
One of my favorite comments is many people have known for how good Fuerza is for a while, but his recent matches with Josh Alexander, Mustafa Ali, Shelton Benjamin have put a lot more people on notice. There's a very good argument that Fuerza is one of the best in the indies in Ontario, if not all of Canada. Very capable singles competitor who can hang with the best in any style, and a very accomplished tag team guy with Von Vertigo by his side. When you see a comment like that posted talking about just wrapping you up in such a nice little neat bow. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? I know it's hard to kind of put you on the spot with how to perceive something like that, but when you hear that a lot of people know how good you are, but these matches where you face these, tailor-made stars with names and how you've hung with them, you've outshone them, and you make almost every match very watchable, which is what that comment goes on to say later on.
I don't know. I don't uh it's hard to um I don't know what the word is, believe that, I guess. I don't know. Like, yeah, I it, I don't want it to be like everybody thinks I'm super humble and whatever. And like to a degree I am. Uh but like I know I'm good. Uh to a degree, I know I'm good. But to see comments like that is, I don't know, a little weird. Just because, like, I don't know, I'm just like some guy. Um, there's very few people who I'll take compliments from, and I'll really like kind of sit on them and analyze them and feel good about. Um, 99% of the time, it's wrestlers who I look up to. Um, some of the guys in Wales, I really, really admire them, and whenever they kind of like to talk me up, I take that pretty seriously. When Josh Alexander's in the ring giving you the death stare and telling you that you're good, you have no choice but to believe him. Um, Same thing with Mustafa. Mustafa is actually a really interesting one because he keeps putting me over on Twitter, and I don't really understand why. Uh, I'm so confused, in fact, that I'm thinking about messaging him and being like, why? Because not that our match was like bad or anything like that. It was good. But it was like so easy. And maybe that's why he like or like working with me so much because it was easy.
Mhm.
Um, but it was just like the easiest thing, easiest match I've had in a long time. It just he could wrestle a broomstick and make it look good, so you know what I mean? Uh, but yeah, when I read comments like that, it feels nice to know that people think you're good. But at the same time, it's like, meh, like what does this guy know? And
Well, I told you you're good forever. I guess I don't know much, eh? Approaching 400 episodes. Come on.
it's just so weird. I don't like compliments that much, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, Wrestling is weird. I grew up wanting to be the center of attention, and at
Dude,
one
no,
point
I
in my
don't see
life,
that. I don't see that at all.
well, I used to be a lot more like exuberant about it, like very in your face, very energetic child. Um, but wrestling is different. Wrestling, there's just something more serious about it, like something slightly more sacred about it
Hmm.
that I don't just take any compliment from any guy off the street. Uh, Not that I don't appreciate compliments, but there's a certain level of I don't know, I guess like I need to know that person a little bit to know that their compliment is coming from a place that I agree with, I guess.
Hmm.
Like I don't know if that makes sense at all, but um it's just like I don't know. A- As bluntly as I can put it is yeah, like what does this guy know that he thinks he can compliment me, which is crazy to say. But on like a less aggressive angle, it's just like a yeah, well, a lot of people like bad wrestling too, so you know, so it's whatever.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But like you said, you hold certain compliments high, despite where any guy off the street or anybody that's watching a show for the first time where those compliments may mean, I do believe it's genuine in a lot of ways. And
I
I
do too. I mean,
yeah.
if you go through the whole process of typing it out and putting it on the internet, then and obviously like if you're on a website like Cage Match, like you got to be a pretty big wrestling dork. So I take those to a degree with like a certain less grain of salt. Um, like I don't want to say like don't compliment me, but uh, just if you really don't have to, then just don't.
I like that. I like that. It's humble, yet it's honest, yet it's real, and that's what I appreciate. But I mean, I've bigged you up for years. I've talked you up for years. I've agreed with so many of the people who don't understand why you aren't signed to one of the more top tier promotions or getting more promotion out there. And I've seen you in the last couple of years. Like I said, you've leveled up in a lot of ways. You've gone over to the UK. You've established yourself over there. You've established yourself stateside. You've had great matches with a lot of people. And maybe it is just the simple fact that when you're in the ring with that individual, it's easy. It's almost like I've heard Josh Alexander say it a bunch of times, not necessarily about you, but about opponents. There are some times where you could be in the ring with an opponent and it feels like a night off. And I feel
Mhm.
like that's what it is with you. I feel like it's seamless in a lot of ways. We talked about Mustafa. We got to talk about Shelton because I actually was able to sit down with Shelton moments after your match, and he had nothing but praise to say that it was incredible. It was hard hitting. It was fast paced. It was everything he was looking for when he had that brief ending run before he made the jump to AEW. Again, these are established wrestlers. We're talking about former TNA X Division champion in Mustafa Ali. We're talking about intercontinental tag team, uh, Money in the Bank highlight reel, Shelton fucking Benjamin, who literally is synonymous with a lot of big titles in pro wrestling. And these guys are saying that it's seamless, it's easy, it's a night off for them when they're in the ring with you. And I can see why Mustafa's putting you over because you deserve to get that shine. You deserve to get that rub. And if it takes a name who's a little bit more established to give you that rub, I don't think there's a bad reason with that. Who knows? That tweet from Mustafa, somebody could be scrolling that tweet at like 4 in the morning when it's the most random time ever and be like, fuck yeah. Next thing you know, boom, Triple H is slide in your DMs. Where's it? Let's talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm not
well,
saying
anything's
it's not.
possible.
It's possible. I mean, the percentage is very, very low, but it's possible.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
mean,
sure.
it's okay to be humble, but it's also okay to give yourself a shine. I suffer from that hugely. Imposter syndrome for me is a big deal. I sit there and I think of the plethora of podcasters that are out there doing the same thing that I do. I figure what makes me different, what makes me synonymous, what makes people want to pay attention. Is it the
Yeah.
guests? Sure. Is it the conversations? Maybe. I stumble on my words. There's times I listen back to earlier interviews and I'm like, "Blah, blah, 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 blah." And it's just, it comes with the territory. So much like you earn your reps in the ring, I've earned my reps in the conversational aspect. So I feel like maybe you suffer from imposter syndrome like I do, but I don't think you have anything to be. I mean, for God's sakes, man, to move on, you're teaching. You're teaching the next crop
Oh,
of
I
comers.
am. Yeah.
And it's incredible because you've been teaching at Battle Arts now. Correct me if I'm wrong. Again, my research is not always 100%. I believe it's been close to 2 to 3 years that you've been teaching on a steady basis at Battle Arts. Am I right?
Something like that, yeah.
Perfect.
I'm time is terrible. I'm bad with time.
Oh, fuck.
So
Dude,
something like
if I didn't have a calendar, I'd be lost. If my phone
yeah.
didn't show up the calendar, I'd be screwed out of my gourd. Or text messages or timestamps or anything like that. Like I sent you the link yesterday. I'm like, okay, I know he's got it. And then this morning, I'm like, hey man, we still good for today? And you're like, yep. I just, I have to do that for me because it's like,
Yeah.
it's the voice in my head. You better double check with Fuerza. Shit could have happened. You better fucking double check. Okay, fair enough. But you're teaching the next crop of these battle arts students. And I want to say the teachers that are in place now, not to discourage any of the teachers that were there before, but I feel like this program has flourished, grown, and really, really taken shape and evolved very nicely since this new crop of teachers. Again, nothing to shy away from the history that Battle Arts has. They have a great history, but I feel like you always got to change and evolve, level up in a way. And I feel like the addition of yourself, I believe Shane Saber is still there. I believe
Mhm.
Lexi Nicole does help out as well. She just came back in rather very brutal fashion, mind you. But I mean, everybody
Yeah.
loves a chair shot. The internet loves a chair shot. But you guys are doing that. And I know we've touched on it before, but I want to go more in depth. You're seeing the next up and coming crop of talent. You're helping flourish and encourage these talents to learn their fundamentals, gain their reps, make them shine, and put them over. How special is that for you? Because I've seen a tweet. This is my favorite tweet of yours all time. I don't
Mm.
care where I make it in pro wrestling, just as long as my students make it and I get free tickets.
Mm.
Great,
Yeah.
great fucking tweet. Love that tweet, bro. Love it. But
Thank you.
let's unpack that a little bit more. You don't care where you end up. That's cool. You're great. You're doing your thing. You're having fun. And as long as wrestling stays fun, I think you'll continue to enjoy it. But knowing that you have the potential to shape these young pro wrestlers, how important is that for you?
I mean, without getting too in the weeds, it's pretty important.
Mhm.
Um, I never wanted to teach this early,
Hmm.
but now that I am, I have no choice but to give it my all. Um, I don't think I'm like that good that I should be teaching, but I'm smart enough to know that I don't know much. Whereas a lot of trainers I find sometimes refuse to admit that they don't know something, or just like that old school mentality of like what I say goes, and why? Because I said so, or because my trainer said so, or because his trainer said so. Um, there's a lot of shit I don't know, and I make it very clear to my students that I don't know certain things. But what I do know, I'm happy to pass on. Um, but really, more than anything, I'm just trying to encourage them to get out there and do more than I did and not make the same mistakes that I did because time passes super quick. Like we just said, we both are terrible with time. You blink and next thing you know, 10 years have gone by. And in wrestling, realistically, you only have like a 20-year window to do really anything with it. 30 if you're like really good. Um, but you only have that small window of time to actually make something of yourself and find that little spot for yourself where you can kind of relax into, you know what I mean? Um, like for example, right now I have three students went. One had to come back because he was very, very sick, but I have two students who did a camp with New Wave Wrestling with Wild Boar and all those guys, and they got a spot, and now they have spots for the next time that they show up to the UK. And they're like 20 years old. Like it took me until I was like 27 to do this. Vertigo was a lot better than I was. He went at like 24 or something like that. But these guys are even earlier than that. Um, and it feels good to know that not only like are they going and they have that sort of confidence in themselves, because that shit's scary to go to another country and to just hope that you're a good wrestler because you don't really know, right? Like in this pond, you know that you can hang, but you don't know what it's like in another scene. So just the fact that they had the confidence to go and do it, I'm very proud of. But they've also gone and impressed everybody and done well enough to actually earn those spots. So that's very nice for me because it means that I'm doing a good job. And it's very nice for them because, they're the ones doing the work. Uh, yeah, I mean, all I want is for my students to be happy and competent, and I guess to not feel like they're trapped into wrestling because I find a lot of guys that I've met through the years, they put all their eggs into the wrestling basket,
Mhm.
and when that didn't work out, they just became miserable. Um, I just don't want that for my students or for myself or for anybody really. Um, Wrestling is great, but if you let it be everything, sometimes that doesn't work out, and you're left, I guess, empty because if that was your purpose and you're no longer doing that thing or no longer doing it to the degree that you think you should be, if you think you should be in the WWE and you're over here doing, local indie feds, then you're gonna feel pretty shitty about yourself. So I try to imbue the students with a certain um sort of respect for the wrestling and not for the position that it can get you in.
Mhm.
Um, I, I love that people have the ambition to want to make it and be in the WWE and be in AEW and whatever. Um, but I really do think that you should respect wrestling, period, no matter where you're doing it. Um, you should try just as hard as you can, whether you're doing a show in front of like 10 people in Toronto or, 40,000 people in some crazy arena. Um, I feel like they should both satisfy you to a certain degree, um, so that you don't end up feeling like you miss out.
Hmm. Dude, that's quite the profound answer, and I love some of the verbiage and the way you worded things. And I gotta piggyback off that. You said that you waited till you were 27 and that you called them mistakes. Now you waited till you're 27 to kind of get yourself out there. Why did you wait so long? Was it to be completely honest with you? Because I don't think we've ever gone down this rabbit hole, and I'm intrigued to go down that. Was it a lack of confidence? Did you not have the confidence in yourself to think that you could succeed in another pond?
I guess I would use the word fear,
Hmm.
but where did the fear come from? Probably confidence. Um, I don't know. I always had the plan to go, and when Vertigo started going, the plan became more like likely. Um, there was like the first half of my career, I was in a committed relationship with somebody who just didn't blend well with wrestling. Um, and to be frank, I would have rather prioritized her over the wrestling. So for that kind of period of time, I was very content just wrestling, like 3, 4 times a month, which nowadays would be like really depressing. Uh, so yeah, that first little half, I was just content to, hang out with the girlfriend and wrestle my couple shows a week or a couple shows a month. Um, and it wasn't until that relationship ended and I started to go really all the way back into wrestling that I started to think about where I should be and what I should be doing. And to be honest with you, because Eddie Dennis and Wild Boar came to Battle Arts, and because I got to meet them, and they got to meet me, and they got to see what I could do, and I got to talk to them about how I could improve and all that sort of stuff. Um, they kind of imbued me with a lot of confidence, um, because I like even before I officially met these guys, I was a fan of them. Uh, I'd watched their stuff on NXT UK. I'd watched their stuff in progress. Um, and to hear from them that I was not only good, but like really good, And they couldn't even really give me anything to improve on, which such bullshit. But regardless, they couldn't give me something to improve on. So I kind of decided that day that I was like, I need to go to the UK. Like it's no longer I should. It's like I need to. And it just got to the point where trips kept getting pushed back because you try to gather like four people to separate or so sorry to divide like a Airbnb or something, and one person pulls out and one person wants to postpone, and before you know it, it just becomes a lot harder. So I pretty much just decided to just book it, and you know, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. If I have to go by myself, then I go by myself. Luckily I didn't have to, but yeah, it was just meeting them, and I guess yeah, getting that little bit of confidence that made me really sort of pull the trigger. And now I'm addicted, so that's all I can think of.
Well, I've never been to the UK, but I do have to go because I have heritage there. I have, family has property in Scotland and stuff like that. So I do want to get over there to see where I came from essentially because I know
Yeah.
the Italian side of my family very well, but I don't know the Scottish side too well. I love it. I appreciate it. I do know that my long line historian through many years of 23s and me and trying to research stuff. I do know that one of my ancestors was in Braveheart and did have a character. So that's pretty
Oh,
fucking cool.
that
Yeah,
is
my
cool.
great ancestor was Braveheart's best friend. Remember? Should I remember the Rock? Yeah, I was his best friend. Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking cool. I mean, eventually, I had to mourn that he was ripped into four pieces. But hey, we were buddies for a very long time
Yeah.
in the family history. So it's pretty cool to see that side of stuff. So I definitely do want to go over there. But you know what, man? I will say that I feel like this is the most honest and real that we've gotten in a lot of our conversations, which is fantastic. To shift gears and to go into something a little bit more, I guess, wrestling centralized. When you
Mhm.
look at the last couple of years that you've had with the bangers and bangers and bangers and matches that you've had, it's hard to pick through. But where would you say Gabriel Fuerza, the character, the wrestler, the whole nine yards, really just delivered? I mean, most recently you had an insane triple threat with Von Vertigo and Josh Alexander for that Northern Crown title. I was not able to attend that show, but from what I understand, that match is fantastic. I do have to watch it. It's on my list. I just haven't found the time yet. But when you hear like your matches are becoming synonymous with legend here in Ontario in terms of these are the matches you want to watch. If anybody wants to talk to me, like if I get a podcast from another part of the world, it's like, hey man, I really want to dip into the Ontario talent. Who should I tackle first or who should I look at? Right off the bat, three names pop into my head. You, Vaughn, and Alexia, and that's not shitting. That's being truthful. You guys have had some insane matches. And I look at the last 2 years, especially being able to call some of those matches, being able to call you versus Shelton, being able to call you versus Mustafa. Like, those are special moments for me as a commentator, somebody who just got into that for fun. And you know what? When you talk about high praise, the high praise that you gave me when I asked you about my commentary, and it wasn't high praise, it was just like, yeah, dude, it's good. For me, that was like shit. Where's the thinks my shit's good? I'm good. I'm happy. But like you look at the names of some of the people that you've had the ability to wrestle and tell stories with. I mean, it's got to be surreal sometimes. You look, Flair's from 15 years ago would be like, holy shit, man, I've been in the ring with some big time names. Like, how does that feel for you?
That feels good. I try to think that way a lot. Like, what would Kid me think?
Hmm.
He'd probably be impressed. Um, it's tough because like I'm notoriously hard to impress. Not just with like external things, but internal things too.
Hmm.
Um,
I got it. That's good. That's why I was like, holy shit.
yeah. So I don't know. Like when I think of matches that like uh I I really liked. Yeah, I don't know. Like nothing really pops to mind. Not that I haven't been happy with the matches. I have been, but it's hard to remember. Like you know what I mean? Like you're only as good as the last thing you did. So, like in this case, the last thing I did was the triple threat, which was good. It was good. Um, I don't know. Could I have done better? Probably. Am I happy with my performance? Yeah, for the most part. I did a cool move that I've never done before, and it's not like me to do this kind of stuff, so I was happy with that. Um, Josh was happy, so that makes me happy. Uh, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Off the top of my head, like I honestly can't even really like I write all my matches down because if I didn't, they'd be lost to the ether. Um, the last match I really remember thinking like, oh yeah, that was like a good match. I don't even know, man, honestly. I mean the Josh Vertigo one was really nice because there's a thing they don't do it so often anymore, but at C4 when you would have a really good match, the fans would rush the ring and start pounding on the mat.
Hmm.
Uh, our first main show, we got that, and I don't know. I remember like lying in the ring because we had lost, we hadn't won, but so we're lying in the ring and the match vibrating because everybody's smacking on it. And I remember thinking like, wow, like I could do this for the rest of my life. Um, and that doesn't happen so often anymore. I don't know. Ever since they moved the venue, the vibe has changed a little bit.
Mm.
But at Northern Crown, because we had wrestlers around the ring as well, and they initiated it. Um, so even though I wasn't involved in the finish, just before the tap out happened, I dove in just to get that, just to get the mat smack feeling, and it was great. That stuff is more of a compliment than like I don't know. You could say like, "Hey, where's it like that fucking match ruled, man? Like that was a good match." Blah 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 blah. One guy told me once that the hour-long match Albright and I had was the best match he had ever seen. He said he had gone to Maple Leaf Gardens when he was a kid, and he always goes to the WWE shows and blah blah blah. And somehow this match was the best match he had ever seen. And I was like, "Okay, buddy, you're out to lunch, but thank you." Um, but the smacks, oh, I don't know what it is about the smacks. It hits. That's like compliments in its truest form. And not just for me, obviously, but for the three of us. And it's a lot easier when you compliment me as well as other people, because then it's harder for me to like deflect it because then I'm also deflecting their compliments. So, so yeah, that was really nice. And I don't know, like having Josh kind of give you the stamp of approval and it's nice. That's nice.
It is. It is. It is fantastically nice. And speaking of Josh and the ties that Josh has to a certain all Canadian promotion that we're getting, 2025, it's going to be full force from what I understand. Maple Leaf Pro. Okay, we had our first shows back in October, and now it's coming full force from what I understand in the first quarter of 2025. Gabriel Fuerza, throwing this out there. Have you been approached by Scott Demore? Have there been talks with Maple Leaf Pro? Are you going to tell me, or are you just going to sit there and grin?
Um, I don't know. Should I lie and make it seem mysterious, or should I tell you the truth?
Whatever you want, man.
I have not been approached
Okay.
by anybody. Uh, Should I approach them? Yeah, probably. Will I? I don't know yet. Harry D tells me to, and I know I should,
Mhm.
so I probably will. But yeah, no promises.
Dude, if you get on one of those Maple Leaf Pro shows, I've got a week's worth of Flares shirts that I can wear every single day, leading up to the show and after
That
the
would
show.
be nice.
Yeah, I've got them all. I've even got
Yeah,
the yellow one that I don't wear because yellow's
that's
not
good
my
'cause
color. Yellow's not
I
flat.
got I got a red one waiting for you too.
I know you do. I'm wait. We have to see each other in order for that to
Literally
happen.
has your name on
Yeah, I've got to get myself to Battle Arts one day, or I'm sure there'll be a show or two that
it.
I can come out to. But I want to talk about, I guess, one other thing, and it's kind of a broad spectrum, but I want to talk about, I guess, second chances. And do some
Yeah,
people deserve a second chance in the eyes of the community? Not to talk about anybody specifically, but there are some people that obviously were called out in the speaking out movement and all that kind of stuff and everything that happened.
yeah.
And there's information out there that we know and that we don't know. In terms of some of these individuals, not naming anybody specifically, but I just want to ask the question broadly because I feel like you'll give a genuine answer. Do certain individuals need or deserve, I shouldn't say need, my apologies, deserve a second chance to get back into the wrestling business if given the right opportunity and done the proper way?
Yeah, I would say to a degree, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think everybody deserves a second chance depending on the severity of what they did.
100%.
Um, that said, wrestling is not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
There's this whole trend. I feel like going that wrestling is for everybody, that anybody can be a wrestler, anybody can succeed in wrestling, and I just don't think that's true. Um, it feels like I'm going off, but give me a second.
Mhm.
I don't think wrestling is for everybody. I think wrestling is for um a specific type of person that's crazy enough and respectful enough um and committed enough. A lot of people just aren't that way. Especially speaking as like a trainer now, a lot of people aren't that way. A lot of people don't really realize what they're getting into. Um, that said, a lot of people are very talented, and they get wrestling in a way that certain people don't. Um, but conversely, those people don't know how to handle themselves respectfully. Um, there's a certain level of fuck up you can have and still find your way back into the good graces of people. I mean, look at Shawn Michaels, right? Like Shawn Michaels was a total cokehead asshole. Some people say he still is, right? But he's much more beloved now, and he's actually doing things to make a difference and to reshape his legacy and to actually help people. Um, so he's like a great example of somebody that got that second chance, or maybe not a second chance because, quite frankly, he was going to get it no matter what. But somebody who managed to redeem himself.
Redemption. I
It's
like
totally
that.
possible. It's totally possible. Um, but I think a lot of people, with regards to the speaking out movement, they don't really do anything to try to uh, fix anything. They just wait, hope people forget, and then sort of slink their way back in. Um, it's just that's just not the way it works, I don't think. I think if you're going to own up to your mistake, then you got to own up to it like a man, right?
Hmm.
Um, and if people are not okay with it, then you kind of got to live with that. Wrestling is not something that is owed to people. It's not something, like I said, the reason it's not for everybody is because it's not owed to anybody. Um, Wrestling above all is something that's driven by respect. Respect for your body, respect for your opponent, respect for your roster, everybody who works to make the wrestling show a success, you have to respect them. Um, and we're not getting into specifics here, but if you need to hide the fact that you're on a show, you're not respecting the fans, you're not respecting the roster, uh, you're not respecting wrestling. Um, and you can pretend that like it was an honest mistake, but it wasn't. Um, to go through the process of getting on a show or booking a talent who has been canceled in the past, um, and withholding that information from the fans, from your roster, some of whom have some serious commitments that they would jeopardize by being on a show with somebody who had been called out. You're just not respecting the roster anymore. Um, so yeah, there's definitely room for second chances. There's definitely room for um, you know, uh, rehabilitation or whatever. But at the end of the day, if fans don't want to pay to see you anymore, then you no longer really belong here. Um, Maybe there are other ways that you can contribute. If you really loved wrestling, you'd find a way. If you really love the attention, then you'll keep wrestling, you know? Um, but yeah, I feel like I'm like beating around the bush a lot. I'm just gonna kind of come out and say it. With the whole Destiny thing, the reason that I'm no longer working for Destiny, uh, is not only the fact that they booked Marty Scurll. That sucks. Simply because like the guy's situation, and like I said, he hasn't really done a whole lot to sort of help his case. Um, but it's the fact that you felt the need to lie to the people that are making your show a success. The fact that people were finding out that this guy was on the card and panicking and thinking about pulling off and calling the people that they respect to ask them what to do. That's like you're putting them in a major like hiccup, right? Um, the worst thing is to get to a show and to have some sort of thing like blindside you, right? Like that's not what you want. You want to go to a show, you want to do your match, you want to have a good time, get paid, hopefully make some merch money, and not have to worry about the fact that like, oh God, like I'm gonna get seen with this guy, I'm gonna lose my spot on TV, right? Um, so yeah, more than anything, it's a matter of respect. If you're gonna run a show with somebody who is, controversial, then your roster needs to know, and your roster needs to be okay with that. And conversely, the fans need to know because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are paying a ticket, right? If if they if they're giving you money, they need to know what it's going towards. And if it's going towards, putting money into a guy's pocket who they don't agree with, then it's just not fair, right?
In terms of promoters that maybe you've decided to step away from, would you give those promoters another opportunity?
Yeah, definitely. Certain things have to change with certain promoters, but at the end of the day, like I don't even care if your show is the absolute shits. Like as long as you're paying people and you're being transparent about what it is that's going on, then I will work for you. As long as your ring is safe, uh, everybody's getting paid, nobody's getting scammed, that's cool. Like I don't care. But a lot of new promoters don't really understand the business in a way that they think they do. Um, like I said, most importantly in the sort of respect way. Um, and that's something that needs to change. A lot of promoters, new promoters, need to understand that they don't know nearly as much as they think they do. And that's totally okay, right? Like you start a new job, you're not expected to be, managerial material immediately, right? So it's totally okay to ask for help and um, lean on your roster a little bit if you don't know what you're getting into. Um, that I think is way better than just making sort of boneheaded decisions just because you think it might work or you think it might be controversial or whatever. I think Sean Gibson is a great example of that. He started promoting Barry right around the same time that I started wrestling. And from the very get-go, he was always talking to the vets in the locker room and trying to figure out how to make the show better, how to make it run better, how to make more money for the boys. And once he actually had that money, how he could put that money back into the company to actually improve the product. And I don't know if you'd remember, but Barry Wrestling started off as like a crooked ring and like, a little curtain, and it was nothing. That was it. And now we have a full-on production team. We have cameras. We have a not crooked ring. We have banisters. Like the product has completely shifted night and day, and that's because Sean is open and willing to actually work with the roster to not only improve the show but to improve his own skills as well, so that when we're not around, he knows what to do. And
Hmm.
some promoters just don't want to do that.
Hmm. I like that. I think that's a very broad answer. There's gonna be some people out there that think the answer is targeted specifically at them. No names were mentioned. All we did was discuss things. That's it. We just put it out there. So my final question before I wrap it up, and again, I always love these ever-evolving conversations, but I do feel that this one is probably one of the most honest ones that we've had. And I'm not saying that anything else we ever said before was bullshit. I mean, I think the first three conversations were me going, "Hey man, you rock," and you were like, "Shut up, George," and it was awesome. But my final question is, in terms of I guess the next crop of these battle arts students that are coming out, um, should we be surprised with what we see coming out of that gym in the next few years? Like, should we is there I don't mean that in a negative way, I mean in a very positive way in terms of
Mhm.
excitement. Like the next crop of Ontario indie talent that is going to be kind of rising through the ranks everywhere that they're being trained, not just necessarily battle arts. But what do you think about the future of Ontario? I guess that's my question. Does it look bright for you?
I think it looks pretty good. I can speak for the guys that we're training. Like Roger Husher is really good. Like way better than he has any right to be. for the age he is. Matty Z, extremely athletic. Actually, we had a match at Barry. Um, Planned almost nothing, went out very quick, didn't really kind of have to think about it too much. In the same weekend, I wrestled Von Vertigo and I wrestled someone else. But this was my favorite match by far. I've wrestled Von Vertigo in my sleep. Like I could wrestle that guy, no problem. And wrestling Matty Z was more fun on that particular weekend for me. So I think Matty Z will definitely go far. And he again is like 19 or some shit. Like these are babies who just know how to wrestle. It's crazy. Ahmed, Abu, same thing, KPK. I think they will come a long way. Um, Brian Sinclair, he gets wrestling in a way that a lot of people don't. Um, don't give me that face. He uh he gets wrestling in more than just the in-ring stuff, more than just the physicality. But that said, the leaps and bounds that he's made since he joined is nuts. Like he came to us as overweight, asthmatic, injury prone, unconfident, like 40-year-old man in a 20-year-old's body. And just to see the level of drive that he's sort of showcased and the commitment to getting his physical health much better. He's doing things in the ring that he never thought he'd be able to do. And he looks good. And I go to shows sometimes that are a little bit more of the, I don't want to like belittle them, but like the B shows, where the younger guys are mostly wrestling. And sometimes I just look at him and I'm like, wow, like it almost looks like you've been wrestling twice as long as these guys. Not that they're bad, it's just that some of the things that he does are so next level that it really impresses me in that way. Um, and yeah, to get away from battle arts, I find that the latest crossbody crop is also really good. Braylon is way better than she has any right to be. I saw her wrestle Kylie Ray, and it was like her like fourth match or something. Insane. Like for a fourth match, it was so good. Like I would have guessed she was wrestling at least 5 years
Oh,
by if I had just looked at that match. Really good stuff. Alex Gagne, I've heard really good stuff about over at Crossbody as well. Mikey Jenkins, I always make fun of him because he's always crying backstage, but it's not because he's sad, it's because he just fucking loves wrestling so much. Um, Anytime he gets any sort of like little achievement, he's crying in the back because it just means so much to him. That's the shit I like. Uh, and yeah, I mean, like, I think that's all the students that I've really kind of rubbed elbows with lately. But yeah, I mean, I feel like the future is bright.
I love that. And you know what? As much as God, fucking Brian Sinclair annoys the shit out of me. You're right. He's a talent, and the kid knows how to get under your fucking skin to no avail. And God, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I appreciate him.
Yeah.
But you know what? You mentioned a few names on that list that might be appearing on Straight Talk in 2025. So that's good. You know what's great about this conversation, man, is it always gets better. And it's always fun and it's always easy. And I appreciate that. And anytime you want to throw someone my way and say, hey, you should go on Straight Talk because it's a good fucking time, I would love that.
Okay, well, I'll let him know.
All right, fair enough. I don't think you will. No, you will. I know you will. All right. Anyways, as always, thank you so much for joining again. And I appreciate you. And obviously, you're going to come back and we're going to do this all over again in another year or so. The ever evolving conversation. As long as you want to keep coming on, I'll keep having these conversations with you, man, because they are fucking amazing.
Sounds good, man.
All right. That's it for this one, guys. Peace, love, and wrestling. See you next week. Peace.
Yo. We just people from the north side. Once the Timmy's hit the shore fine. Winter ready on the four ties. Heavy traffic during 4-5. Gotta hustle on your own time. Color people every port side. We just people from the north side.